Clinical Futures began more than 15 years ago. Since that time, it's grown immensely, eventually becoming the Center for Pediatric Clinical Effectiveness, and most recently, Clinical Futures.
Clinical Futures is a multidisciplinary group, really an academic home for clinicians, researchers, biostatisticians, methodologists who are all unified to try to develop and implement evidence to make kids healthier.
Clinical Futures really has a hand in both understanding the nature of the problem, studying the interventions, and then turning that into real-world, sustainable change.
Clinical Futures is very much focused on implementation. And so that means you get to see some of these effects actually trickling out into the community at various levels.
It can take as much as 17 years or more for findings from research to then make their way into clinical practice. That's a whole generation of children who grow up without the benefit of those insights. So if we could cut that to 5 years, to 3 years, even 7 years, and a whole generation of children could potentially benefit who otherwise might not have.
As a mother, as a pediatrician, as an advocate, I could talk to you for days about why pediatric care is so important. Children can't advocate for themselves much of the time. And getting the best care as a child really has repercussions for how these people are going to survive and thrive.
We have more than 85 faculty members with about 200 total faculty and staff. We've developed and expanded fellowship programs, and many of those people we've trained have now gone on to be leaders in the field. And when we connect those different people, we can potentially break down silos and bring the best ideas into research and then ultimately into practice.
The Research Institute encompasses all the research that's done across the departments at CHOP. Clinical Futures is one of the centers of emphasis in the Research Institute. Clinical Futures is really focused on driving change in how we take care of patients where they are.
Having Clinical Futures located in the Research Institute at CHOP means that we can translate all these findings into practice so much more quickly.
We're not afraid of big problems. We're the nation's first children's hospital. We have one of the oldest research institutes. We have institutions like Clinical Futures, which are willing to tackle sizable issues because we know that's what we have to do to make sure that kids attain their best health.
The Clinical Futures group is a really welcome home for that more expansive thinking about some of the ways in which we might need to tackle social determinants of health and understanding how to best address pediatric chronic illness or other types of health problems for children.
One of the strengths of Clinical Futures is its diversity. The way that's represented in the organizational structure of Clinical Futures is its pillars.
We have organized the Clinical Futures approach through 6 different pillars. Many of our studies are using multiple of those pillars, if not all of them, to attack a question, and that's how we really get at the answers in the best way.
It's so important that as researchers we also remain clinically active. It's really hard to conceive of effective interventions to help improve upon that process if you don't actually have a foot in that clinical world.
Even in a place this big, absolutely everybody shares the same dream and the same mission. We are here to help children.
The greatest part of this is having exposure to everyone's work and to have this community of like-minded researchers who really all have one common mission, which is just improving children and families' health and well-being.
We have a really huge breadth of the types of pediatric problems that people are working on, a huge range of clinical content areas, but everybody is really united by our focus on methods and using the most rigorous tools and methods that we can.
My research family or my lab is Clinical Futures. These are the people that I look to for ideas to help my grant proposals be successful. My colleagues are the ones that have the ideas that usually help me succeed.
I see Clinical Futures as bringing together different people, and I look forward to seeing those interconnections blossom, to growing the support we have from different funders to achieve these goals, and really to expanding our impact across the different pediatric settings and child health settings where so much is needed to help kids live healthier lives.
There are many conditions right now that hospitalize hundreds, if not thousands of kids a year. By harnessing the data from our electronic health record, from doing that basic research, being able to conduct clinical trials, we have and we can continue to reduce that morbidity, reduce hospitalization, and even reduce mortality. And the hope is that a few years from now, we will have improved the lives of children in many ways.